everybody. Welcome to another episode of NetSupport Insights. I'm very excited to bring Deanna Bledsoe, who's from Kai Coders, going to tell us about what's going on, what she's talking about at ISTE, and what's happening in the world of coding. So Deanna, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. We're here at ISTE. I'm a retired programmer. I was an IT professional for more than 20 years, kind of worked my way up to become an IT director of Delaware's Treasury. And during that time, during COVID, I started Kai Coders as a way for my daughter, who was a third grader at that time, doing virtual school, as a way for her Girl Scout troop to get STEM badges. So that's how I started that. And so I was in the living rooms or wherever the kids happened to be. There were 30 kids in her troop. And the parents really responded very favorably to my style of teaching the girls. So that kind of blew up to becoming, okay, well, I'll do virtual workshops. And when schools reopened, I started getting in and realizing with different tools in person, like the sky's the limit. And really having the ability to bring coding off the screen and into these really like kind of wacky, meaningful though projects for the kids. So I always say I like to bring coding and computer science out of the lab, off the screen, and like into something kids can touch. Because I work with little kids, right? Kindergartners through sixth graders is my focus area. And so I don't want them to feel intimidated. We all know that when they get a phone, you know, they know how to use it, but they don't really know how to. I want them to understand how to create something out of that, not just how to be users. So we just do these really cool projects that I think the kids are very interested in. Well, I know the kids are very interested because I get it from them. All of the stuff that we do is fed by what the community wants, what those kids want, what the teachers are looking to do. If there's like a school impact that we're trying to make, something like that. So it's usually, we do like, it could be anything from just a 45-minute session during a class to weeks long, like big project because you're gonna have a cultural carnival at your elementary school. So how can we do that and make coding and computer science and art and music all kind of intertwined?
I love that, and like what you said, like making it more tangible, like taking it out of the computer, out of the lab, and making it something that's relatable, that's fun, and like you're saying, a lot of wacky creative lessons. I need to know. Tell me about some of these wacky things.
Well,
like what are you doing?
But I mean, when you look at them and take them apart, they might not seem quite so wacky. But like we were here last year, we presented on a project. We coded a food drive. Well, what do you mean you coded a food drive? Our local food bank of Delaware, runs this competition called Cangineering, where they encourage students to run a food drive, collect food, and then build a structure out of that food. And then they rate that. And so that was the first year they had done it with students. They used to do it with, they probably still do it with like commercial adults, stuff like that. So I saw that they were doing for that students. I'm like, oh, well, they're already doing engineering with that. We could definitely code that thing up. So I worked with a local elementary school. And the kids thought, okay, let's make a huge sneaker. The name of the store is North Star. So they wanted to do a Converse sneaker with that star, right? But they made a Canverse. But they learned about circuitry and wiring, and we wired different connection points up to that sneaker so that when the food bank came in, they were, you know, you would touch the different sensors and it would say, they had to do a lot of research. So it would say, did you know the food bank supports, you know, so many communities or so many families, just like North Star Elementary. So they tied it back to the efforts that the school does. But I thought the major thing, they raised over 1,000 pounds of food.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool. And the kids learned about like food insecurity and different things they didn't know about. So for me, that's kind of like people like, you coded a food drive, but we just finished coding in the city of Wilmington, a local artist you started seeing these huge wooden painted robots figures with these humongous hearts. And it was just like a little, it's kind of this little installation this artist had done just to put a smile on people's face. And every once in a while, like one might say, be kind, or it'd have like an inspirational message. And I saw them and I loved it. So I reached out to him and I'm like, we met and I told him what I do. And so like I just had a summer camp 2 weeks ago where we're building this, it's gonna be different because we're not using wood because we need it to be portable. But we're coding this huge 6-foot paper robot that's got joints. It's going to have inspirational messages from the kids, but it's also going to be able to make music because we're going to do it at the Soul of the City block party. So it's going to be this big community event with this coded up paper robot, basically, that, you know, 8-year-olds did. So it's a good way to showcase what they can do. It brings a lot of attention to the work. That was for inner city kids, so I love that they can get out and like show off to their community, like, this is what we did. This is our voice, like literally our voice you're hearing, giving you these inspirational messages. So just different stuff like those are just 2 recent projects.
Those are amazing. And the student voice aspect, the ability for them to have a part in it, and then they get connected back to the community. They're learning about not just one thing, but many things and how they're so intertwined together. So especially at their ages when they're just learning how the world works and what everything is. And
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Last fall, I worked with a school, again in the city, and they accidentally sent me this message, I think, along with the teacher that was doing their performing theater. And I said, oh, you're combining me with the theater teacher? This is great. We're going to code some theater work. And they were like, oh, that was an accident, but can you do that? And I was like, well, yeah, we can code up props. We can code up like big posters. So that ended up being an anti-smoking public service announcement. We converted it. They ended up moving to an 8-minute short documentary about an anti-smoking. These are 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. And they coded special effects in this movie, in this little documentary. They coded up posters for like the grand opening, so you could interact. And it's their drawings, it's their message about why shouldn't you smoke? What do you do if you're smoking? And so that one's kind of interesting because they have to do research. But after a while, you hear all the kids saying, oh, it's bad for your health. Well, yes, of course. And I said, I want to know more than it's bad for your health. Like, what else does? Like, is it cheap to smoke? Does it make me look beautiful? Am I glamorous? Like, what are the other things? And so trying to make them think. So you would have a variety of posters of different messages. But the one really cool thing about that project that I love is I had a 4th grade girl come to me. And it was kind of late. We had already been meeting for several weeks. And she was just like, I don't know why they put me in this class. I told them I don't want to be in this class. I don't want to do this. And it turns out she really likes to rap, music rap. And I said, well, we only have like 15 minutes left. Can you try it? And if you don't like it, I'll see if I can get you transferred to another class. So what I had her do was go out to the hallway, record her rap, imported it, had her sprite, we use scratch coding, so use her sprite to say her rap, and she was like, by the end of our camp, was really an after-school program, by the end of that program, she would introduce herself. She goes, I'm a rapper, but I'm a coder too. And I was just like, my heart would like, even now talking about it, like my heart just swells that this is a girl who was like, no, that's not for me, to, yeah, you know what, I'm a rapper, but I'm also a coder. And I think that's like really cool. She's like, are you coming back next year? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be back, I think.
You got a fan for life right there. You're
I
a fan for life.
I do.
Awesome. And I love the part of your story, kind of going back about starting it because the Girl Scout troop wanted to do those badges, need to earn some badges. I think there's a sort of poor representation of women in STEM and women in coding, and you know, it's good for them to see and hear these stories about other women doing these things. They can see themselves in that.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen a lot of that when you've been working with the kids?
That is definitely true. I went to this kindergarten class one time at a local elementary school, and boys and girls. And I said, raise your hand if you know a programmer, and nobody raises their hand, and it's okay. And we did some unplugged exercises. But at the end, we were recapping everything, and this little girl raises her hand, this little kindergartner, and she's like, Coach, when I grow up, I'm going to be a coder just like you and wear a flower. And I was just like, it's just because I wear that, right? That's a reminder for them to be nice and kind. And, coding, we make a lot of mistakes, and that's cool. That's part of learning. But definitely, that's why I go out a lot to the city to get, people of all. We have a very inclusive. This is what this is. This is about inclusivity and welcoming and accessibility. So even like the robot program that I was telling you about, coding up those paper robots, that's one of the things we talk about. Like, okay, so if you're in a wheelchair, can you use this? If you can't see, can you appreciate this? If you don't speak English, can you appreciate this? So trying to be, I always say you can't talk about inclusivity without talking about accessibility. So I don't teach it like as a separate thing. It's just combined as then part of their design process. So when they're designing their coding projects or their physical projects, I'm going to touch this and it's going to do something. It's one of the things that we talk about is we want to include everyone, which means we also need to make sure that we're thinking about accessibility. So that's just something that we are very much, our whole thing, Kai Coders, Kai is the Hawaiian word for ocean. And And so it's kind of like this ocean of possibility, but really I named this program, my daughter's middle name is Kai. And so this program is really what I wanted for her. And I want it to be accessible to anybody, inclusive to anybody. So that's the main driver of us. We do make these crazy projects and we have a lot of fun, but it's all with that aloha spirit, right? Welcoming, kindness, you're included. It's okay to make mistakes. Actually, you should be making mistakes. If you're not, we need to give you something harder to do. So yeah, I think that's all like bundled in, I think, with these tools nowadays. There's really no reason why things shouldn't be more inclusive and accessible.
No, 100% I agree. And I like that. It's coding with a purpose. It's, you're teaching them a life skill, but you're also teaching them about life in general too.
Exactly.
Exposure to, are you thinking of certain things? Are you considering everybody when you're doing whatever it is that you're doing?
And this is the age. They're in elementary school, so they know, they're sponges. They're absorbing the world around them.
Yes.
So trying to give them that positive role model influence.
I love that. Now, if people wanted to plug in with you or try and bring this over to their school, what can they do or how can they do this?
I'm at kaicoders.com. You can contact me there. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook. I guess pretty much all of them nowadays. And yeah, just reach out to me. We do a bunch of different community events. Sometimes it can be something, like I said, as short as just I say kind of like the Costco sample. Have us come in for 45 minutes and watch how your kids respond. Or it could go all the way up to, this is a year-long program that's in your curriculum and you have different kids coming in and out while we merge it with social studies and phys. We're doing a phys ed one in August, so I can't wait for that one. That's going to be super fun with the Parks and Rec. So we're going to be coding, phys ed, I think. I love it.
It's kind of things you wouldn't normally think of going together.
Yeah, that's why I love it so much.
Curricular, like how everything can be tied together, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's so wonderful. Everybody, it's KAI Coders.
Yes.
Kai Coders. This is the lovely Deanna Bledsoe. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
You're welcome. And enjoy ISTE.
I will. You too.
Thank you.